Hey guys, it's Sarah and today we are revisiting my 2019 makeup favorites. So around this time last year, I uploaded my best of 2019 video, and today we're going to talk about whether or not those products are still favorites, if they stood the test of time, or if they've been replaced with something better. So looking back at last year's video, there actually was no primer favorite, so we're just going to jump straight into foundation. My favorite foundation last year was the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation. This continues to be one of my all-time favorite foundations. It's such a good one. This is what I'm wearing on my face today. Physicians Formula did lose their cruelty-free status for a lot of people this year. A lot of people also do still consider them cruelty-free. I don't know. I feel conflicted. I feel like they're kind of in the gray area for me, but I'm not purchasing from them anymore because of that. This is kind of a medium coverage, very skin-like foundation. It's just such a lovely foundation. However, I do have a foundation in my collection that I think I like slightly more than this, or at least as much as I like this now, and it's the Pacifica A Light foundation. That one is beautiful. It's a little bit more full coverage, and the caveat to that one is you have to make sure you use a small amount. If you use as much as you would from other foundations, it may look a little cakey and heavy, but when I just use a tiny like pea-sized amount all over my face, it looks beautiful, and honestly similar to this one, maybe a little bit more dewy. So this one is no longer like my one and only holy grail, like nothing can ever touch it, but I still love it and I still will miss it so much when I do eventually use this up. My favorite concealer of last year was the Jordana Take Cover Concealer. This one is empty. I did use this up earlier this year and I'm saving it for my 2020 empties. I loved this concealer. I do miss it. I haven't repurchased it just because I have several other concealers that I'd like to use up. I don't know. If I still had this, I don't know if it would still be my #1 favorite. Right now, my favorite is actually the Too Faced Born This Way. That one does have a little more coverage than what I remember of this one. This one is more medium coverage, whereas the Too Faced one is pretty high coverage. I do miss this one. I do plan to repurchase it eventually, but I don't know if it would still be my #1 favorite. So next, for some reason I had 3 different powder favorites last year. So the first one was an under eye setting powder. This is the e.l.f. under eye setting powder. I did finish this earlier this year, so this is empty. I have not felt the need to repurchase this. I do really like this as an under eye setting powder. It's just a translucent kind of white colored setting powder. Works beautifully under the eyes, but I also can just use my face setting powder for under the eyes. So I just don't really feel the need to have a separate dedicated under eye setting powder. My favorite loose powder last year was the e.l.f. HD powder in Soft Luminance, and once I used this one up, I was just using this one under my eyes, and this worked just as well. Now I'm just using my Physicians Formula Healthy powder as my under eye setting powder, so I think I've kind of moved away from needing a separate under eye setting powder, but this is a really nice one, and I do recommend it, but it's no longer really a part of my routine. Haven't felt the need to repurchase it. e.l.f. Soft Luminance, this one I just used up. This was in my most recent empties video. I love this loose powder. It does have a slightly luminous finish. It's not super shiny or glowy, but it just has a nice soft luminescence to it. I love loose powders because I feel like it's easy to get a very natural look with them. I can just use a very light layer and it just sets my makeup in place, doesn't look too heavy. I'm not like running out to repurchase this just because I have several other powders I need to use up, but I have very fond memories with this Soft Luminance powder. So I guess I had an under eye powder, a loose face powder, and a pressed face powder favorite to share last year. I guess I was more passionate about powders back then than I am now. But the pressed powder favorite was also from e.l.f. This is their Prime and Stay finishing powder. Honestly, I haven't been using this much this year because I've been trying to pan another powder. And so I don't really know how I feel about this one now compared to a year ago, just because I have hardly used it in a while. My thoughts on it are pretty much the same as they were last year, just because I haven't used it enough to know if my thoughts have changed, but I will still say that this is a great, very, very inexpensive pressed powder. It comes in a few shades. I have the shade Fair Light. It's pretty much translucent. The packaging is awful though. It's like crumbling at the hinge here, so you kind of get what you pay for in that regard, but what's inside is very nice, and that's what counts. So it also looks like I didn't have a bronzer favorite last year, and that is pretty much the same now. I'm not very into bronzer. I did have a favorite contour product though last year. It was the Jordana Sculpt and Go Creamy Contour Stick in Light. I still love this. I use this almost daily. It is in my project pan, so that's why I'm using it almost daily, but I love this. I am wearing this today. The shade is perfect. I have found that I like using contour more than I like bronzer. I feel like contour just looks more natural on my skin tone than bronzer, believe it or not. I feel like for most people it's the opposite, but I think that I do have a slightly cool undertone and contour just looks better on me. So still loving this, but I have found something I like better that is a lot more expensive, the Oma Beauty Double Take Contour and Highlight Stick. That's also a cream contour, much creamier than this. This one I can't just draw directly onto my face. I have to go into it with a brush and then apply it to my face. Whereas the Oma one, it's creamy enough that I just draw it directly on there, and it's just so convenient, so easy, blends out, like, it's so smooth and creamy. So that one does beat this one, but if you're on a tight budget, you can't go wrong with this one either. So last year was definitely the year that I got into cream products. My top blush of last year was the Flower Blush Balm. I have the shade Pinched. Still love this. Such a good blush formula. I do have one now that I use a little bit more often than this one, mainly because I love the shade. It's the one from Clove and Hallow in Blossom that I have not shut up about this entire year pretty much. That one, I would say I like a little bit more than this one. I like the formula of both equally, but that shade is just like perfection for me. So, but I still love this when I'm going for a nice warm peachy blush. Last year was also the year that I discovered the best highlighter formula in the entire world, which is Becca, specifically the shade Champagne Pop. This was my favorite highlighter last year. Still love it, have major pan on it. This highlighter formula is something very special. Nothing has replaced it yet, so it's definitely still a favorite. I also love the shade Rose Quartz that I now have added to my collection, but Champagne Pop, just, it's a classic for a reason. My favorite setting spray last year was the Pixie Glow Mist. I have the empty one here. I now have the Rose Glow Mist. I also like that one. I think they're pretty much the same. The Rose Glow Mist just has a rose scent to it. This is a great just like makeup finishing mist. It is definitely on the shiny side. If you don't like glow, like a good amount of glow to your makeup, then you would definitely not want to try this, because it actually, when it isn't empty, you can see like the layer of oil that separates, and you have to kind of shake it, and it can be borderline greasy if you're not careful. So I love that though. I feel like it kind of just makes my makeup look so perfected. However, I have found one that is about half the price that I do like just as much. It's the e.l.f. Dewy Setting Mist. But the Pixie Glow Mist is still just like so yummy to me that I don't know if I'd ever want to be without it, because it's different than the e.l.f. one. It is even a little bit glowier, but I love both so much. My favorite brow product last year was the CoverGirl Brow Pencil. It's like a skinny brow pencil. I went through several of those last year. I'm sure I would still like it, but I did switch to the ABH Dip Brow Pomade like I've mentioned many times on my channel. I love that one. I do think I like a pomade better than a pencil, not just because it's a little more cost effective, but also because, I don't know, I just feel like I have gotten better at doing my brows since I switched to a pomade. Brows are definitely the area of makeup that I struggle with the most. I was not blessed with like wonderfully shaped eyebrows. My eyebrows are just kind of wonky, and so there was definitely a learning curve switching over to a pomade. It was harder to begin with, but now that I've gotten the hang of it, I love it, and I feel like I enjoy doing my brows more now than I did when I had a pencil. So anyway, the CoverGirl Brow Pencil is no longer a favorite. Probably won't be going back to a pencil, but if you're looking for a good drugstore brow pencil, that one is great. But I would fly through it in like 6 weeks because it's just a kind of creamy formula. So now one brow product that is still a favorite this year is the e.l.f. Wow Brow. This was my favorite brow gel of 2019. I still love this. I repurchased it when I ran out of my previous one. I am wearing this in my brows today. I love this brow gel so much that I don't even feel like I care to try any others. I have the shade Taupe. It is lightly tinted, but it's a light enough tint that it doesn't get messy and like go outside the lines. There's a little bit of a fiber to it that kind of just fluffs up your brows. If you haven't tried it, it's like $4 and it's so good. In the palette department, I had a high-end favorite and a drugstore favorite. My high-end favorite was the Billie Beauty Eyes of India palette. I still love this palette. This was my 1 month 1 palette in October. Beautiful 10 pan. I love the variety of this. All the things that I said about it then, I still stand by now. It's a wonderful palette. If you're looking to support an indie brand, maybe add some fun colors to your collection, this is an amazing palette. And then my drugstore favorite was just in general the e.l.f. 18 pan palettes, but I filmed a declutter earlier today and I decluttered the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette, mainly because of the color story. I still love the quality of these palettes. I do still have New Classics and Earth and Ocean. Earth and Ocean is my favorite. I haven't reached for this one in a while just because I've been doing a 1 month 1 palette series and just been focusing on some other palettes, but wow, this is beautiful. I love all of the blues in here. They're all just so... they make me love playing with blue eyeshadow. Blue eyeshadow can be very intimidating, but there's something about these that just, it's approachable in a way to me. And also this like yellow gold is so pretty. It also makes me enjoy playing with green eyeshadow, and I didn't used to really like green eyeshadow. Now I'm a huge fan of green eyeshadow, mostly thanks to this palette. So I need to do like a holiday look with this silver glitter. That needs to happen soon. But I still love that one. And then New Classics is a great like everyday neutral palette. So these are absolutely still a favorite today. I also recommend Opposites Attract. I just decluttered it because I had all those shades in other palettes of my collection, and for some reason that color story just wasn't inspiring me quite as much as these two do. My favorite mascara of 2019 was the Flower Lash Warrior. I have an empty one here. This is a great mascara. If you like a big, spiky brush, I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I personally love this kind of brush. It really just gets in between every lash. It lengthens like crazy. It gives you a ton of volume. I love the shape of this brush. I love that there's two sides that don't really have bristles, so you can kind of coat your lashes and then comb through them. Amazing, amazing mascara. But this year I did find a cheaper drugstore mascara that I like just as much, the e.l.f. Keep Your Curl. I've talked about this one so much this year. So many of you guys have bought this because of my recommendation and have said that you love it. Some people have said that this is really hard to remove. I have not had that problem, but to be fair, when I was using this one, I was removing it with a like makeup eraser type cloth. I wasn't using a cleansing balm at that time. Now I have switched to using a cleansing balm, so I'm gonna have to, I feel like there's enough in here that I could test it. Yeah, I guess my advice would be use some kind of makeup remover cloth along with it. But the e.l.f. one is $5, the Flower one is like $10, so it's about half the price. Similar brush, not quite as big, which I actually appreciate that this brush isn't quite as big as the Flower one, but it's still nice and spiky and curved, and also just gives great length and separation and volume and just everything that I want in a mascara. This one has kind of replaced the Flower Lash Warrior for me, even though I still love this one and highly recommend it. I like the e.l.f. one a little better. It's just a little bit easier to work with because the brush is smaller. I also tried the Urban Decay Lash Freak this year, and that one is so good. It's just expensive, but that one is like even more volume and length than Flower Lash Warrior, and it's kind of a similar brush but a little bit different. My favorite lip liner last year is still a favorite today, the Jordana lip liners. I think last year I mentioned Plush Plum, which I actually just decluttered, not because I didn't like the formula, but because I just didn't need that shade. I already had another lip liner that was a very similar shade, so I got rid of that one. But I do still have Rockin' Rose. This is their Draw the Line lip liner. In the past, I had their Easy Liner, which is in very similar packaging. It's like $1 cheaper. I think this is kind of just their revamped lip liner line, but the ingredients are slightly different. I don't really notice a difference in the performance though. Rockin' Rose is actually my current favorite lip liner. It's just a beautiful, just like dusty rosy brown and usually I don't like brown lip anything, but there's something about this that's like just pink enough that it works on my lips, and this is such a good lip liner formula. Really, it's just as good as, to me, it's just as good as the Urban Decay one, just as good as the Becca one. It's creamy, but I feel like it stays in place, which is really what you're looking for in a lip liner. I don't know if I'll ever not have at least one of these Jordana lip liners in my collection. So last year I had 4 lipstick favorites. 2 were liquid lipsticks and 2 were bullet lipsticks. One of those liquid lipsticks was the Jordana Sweet Cream Matte Liquid Lip in Mango Sorbet. I still love this one. I think I said last year this was a favorite mainly because of the shade. There's just nothing quite like this shade. It's just like a very, very vibrant red-orange, but it's more red than orange, so it doesn't look too orange. This one is a little bit drying, but this shade is so beautiful that that's okay with me. This is definitely still a favorite. And the Physicians Formula Healthy Lip was my other liquid lipstick favorite, specifically in the shade Tulip Treatment. I still love this, and once again heartbroken that they kind of lost their cruelty-free status, also because they discontinued, I'm pretty sure, their entire Healthy line. So this shade is another very, very special, unique red shade to me. It's a cooler toned red. It's almost like a watermelon red. Absolutely still a favorite. So good. If anybody knows a dupe for this, please let me know. And then I also had two bullet lipstick favorites. One of them is the one that's currently in my project pan. I'm very close to finishing this. This is the Red Apple lipstick in Beachside, which is a beautiful kind of tan nude. It's a more brown nude that actually works on my lips because it's kind of light, but it's not too light to where it's like concealer lips. Very, very glossy formula, very comfortable, almost feels like a lip balm. Definitely still a favorite. I don't know, like, I wouldn't be running out to repurchase it once I finish it, just because I have plenty of other lipsticks to last me forever, but I love this formula if you want to like treat yourself to a slightly more expensive lipstick. I would, though, probably recommend sticking to a lighter shade. I don't know if I would want to get like a really bright or deep shade in this formula, just because it's more of a like balmy, glossy lipstick kind of thing. My other favorite bullet lipstick last year was Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk, and I still love this, but for some reason I haven't been wearing it very much. I think probably just because I've been trying to use up this Red Apple lipstick, that I haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to my other nudes, which is kind of sad. So once I finish this one, I need to really pull this out and use it some more. Beautiful color. It's like pink, but brown, but mauve. And the formula is so nice. It's like kind of thin, but creamy. And it's a matte formula, but it's not dry at all. And it stays on really, really well. So I need to rediscover this favorite for sure, because it's not been getting enough love. And finally, a gloss favorite from last year. So lots of lip favorites, which I do love lip products, so that makes sense. But my favorite lip gloss last year was the NYX Butter Gloss in Creme Brulee. I did pan this earlier this year. Yes, the tube on these is actually see-through. You may not have known that. It takes a while to start seeing through it, but it is definitely see-through. Looking back, I haven't repurchased this. I definitely would consider repurchasing it, but looking back on it, I don't necessarily feel like this particular gloss is that special compared to other glosses. I have lots of other glosses that I love. I love the Milani one. I love the ColourPop one, the Dose of Colors one. They're all good. I'm not that picky when it comes to gloss. I would say this gloss formula is a little bit on the sticky side, but it's a beautiful formula. It really does kind of like plump up your lips and smooth out the lines of your lips. So I definitely do still recommend this. It's a great gloss, but I don't feel like I'm really missing it either. So those are all my 2019 makeup favorites. It was fun to kind of take a walk down memory lane and look back at the products that I loved last year. A lot of these are definitely still favorites. Some of them have been replaced though, so it's nice to kind of update you guys on all these products. So I will have my best of 2020 video coming sometime in December, probably towards the end of December, so definitely make sure that you stay tuned for that. But if you enjoyed this video, definitely make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. I'd love to see you again very soon, and hopefully I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!